You probably know the story of David, right? The shepherd boy, the youngest son, the one nobody saw coming who takes down a giant and becomes Israel's greatest king. It's the classic underdog story. But what if that's not even the main point? What if we've been reading it and other stories like it kind of wrong?
I mean, we all know these stories, but are we really getting them? Are they just supposed to be these simple fables, designed to make us feel inspired or maybe a little guilty? Or is there something else going on? Something way deeper and way more powerful? Let's get into it.
Okay, so this is really the core idea we're exploring today. Think of it like two different maps for reading a story like David's. Path 1 is the direct route, from dated straight to you. It's simple, right? The takeaway is be more like David. But then there's the second path. It's a little more complex. It goes from David, through Jesus, and then to you. The big idea here is that the story isn't first and foremost about you. It's about someone else, and that's how it ends up having this massive impact on your life. Let's unpack what that actually looks like.
All right, so to see this in action, we've got to rewind. And what's interesting is the story doesn't even start with David. It starts with the prophet Samuel. And Samuel is, well, he's a mess. He's grieving because the first king he picked, Saul, turned out to be a complete and utter failure. I mean, the guy looked the part, but his character just wasn't there. So God steps in and gives Samuel this top secret mission.
So Samuel heads to Bethlehem, but he has to be really sneaky about it. He can't just announce, hey, I'm here to anoint a new king. No way. The current king, Saul, is still on the throne, and he's paranoid and dangerous. So Samuel pretends he's just there for a religious sacrifice. But make no mistake, this is a high-stakes, life-or-death situation. He invites this local guy, Jesse, and his sons to the ceremony, and nobody really knows what's about to go down. So Jesse brings out his first son, Eliab. And this guy, he looks perfect. Tall, impressive, he's got that kingly vibe. And you know who he looks like? He looks exactly like the last guy who failed, Saul. You'd think Samuel would see a red flag right there, but nope, he's totally blown away. He sees Eliab and he's just sold. This is the one. Surely this is the guy. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. He is literally about to make the exact same mistake twice. He's judging based on looks, on outward appearance. Even after all the pain and failure with Saul, he's ready to sign up for the sequel. And then bam, God just shuts it down. Rejected. Nope, not him. Can you imagine how jarring that must have been for Samuel? I mean, if it's not the guy who looks perfect for the job, then who could it possibly be? So Jesse brings out son number 2, rejected. Son number 3, nope. 4, 5, 6, 7, one after another, they're all rejected. Think about this. 7 sons, all the ones Jesse thought were even worth bringing to the party, are paraded in front of Samuel, and God says no to every single one. You're just left with this awkward, confused silence. What is going on? And right in that moment of confusion, God drops the central theme of the whole story. This is the key that unlocks everything. God says, people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. All the things the world values, how you look, how tall you are, how impressive you seem on the outside, that's not what God's looking for. He's looking at what's on the inside. He's looking at character. He's looking at the heart. So Samuel is totally stumped. He has to ask Jesse, hey, is that it? Are these all your kids? And Jesse's response is amazing. It's like he almost forgot. Oh, well, yeah, there is the youngest one, but he's out with the sheep. I mean, get this. David wasn't just overlooked by the famous prophet. His own dad didn't even think he was important enough to invite to the king-picking ceremony. He was a total non-entity. Okay, so David is called in, he gets anointed, and boom, new king. Now, if we just stop this story right there, the lesson is pretty straightforward, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. It's a nice moral. But if we do that, we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. To get to the real treasure, we need to put on a new pair of glasses, a totally different lens for seeing this story. And this lens has a name. It's often called the Christological lens. It's a big term, but the idea is actually pretty simple.
It's the belief that all these Old Testament stories, the histories, the laws, the ceremonies, they aren't just disconnected events. They're all part of one huge unfolding story. And they're all pointing forward, like arrows, to one central person, Jesus. And this isn't just some idea that theologians invented centuries later. According to the Gospel of Luke, this comes straight from the source. After his resurrection, Jesus literally sits down with his disciples, who are totally confused, by the way, and he walks them through their own scriptures. He shows them how everything, starting with the very first books, was ultimately pointing to him. He was the key, the decoder ring for the whole thing. Okay, so let's take that lens and put it back on our story about David. When we do that, something amazing happens. The story isn't just a biography of a shepherd boy anymore. It becomes a blueprint, a pattern, and we can start to see these 4 key traits of God's chosen one pop right off the page. So check out this pattern. First, the chosen one is not the world's choice. They're the one nobody expects, the underdog. Second, this person is given a message, and that message is always about how God's power shows up in weakness, not in brute strength. Third, and this is a big one, they always suffer. The path is never easy. David was hunted like an animal for years, but that suffering is what forges their character. And finally, number 4, they are given a promise, God's presence, and a job. They get a divine mission and the spiritual power they need to actually do it. See how it's a whole journey? So, if you look at David's life, he hits every single one of these points. Overlooked? Check. A message about God's strength and weakness? Check. Incredible suffering? Double check. A divine mission? Absolutely. So his story isn't just his story. It's a preview. It's like the movie trailer for the real king who would come later and fulfill this pattern perfectly. All right, so we've made the connection from David to Jesus. But remember that 3-part path we talked about at the beginning? David to Jesus to you. What about that last step? How does this land in our lives? Because this is where it all comes home. This is where it gets really powerful. Because making that link from David to Jesus first completely flips the script for us. Instead of feeling this heavy burden of, oh man, I have to be as brave as David, which, let's be honest, most of us feel we fail at, we get something totally different. We get a whole new set of takeaways that are actually freeing. So what does this mean for you? Well, it means your true value isn't based on your outward appearance, your resume, your looks, your social media feed. It's based on your heart. It means that feeling overlooked by the world isn't a sign of failure. In God's story, it's practically a job requirement. It also means that suffering isn't just random, pointless pain. It can actually be part of the journey that makes you who you're meant to be. And best of all, it means your little story is swept up into a much, much bigger divine story. And you've been given a promise, God's presence, and a real purpose within it.
The source material we're drawing from puts it pretty bluntly. It says if you just read from David straight to you, what you end up with are these little drippy Aesop's fables. Tiny morals that just make you feel inadequate or give you a temporary sugar high of inspiration. But if you see the story is really about Jesus first, then it unlocks a genuinely transforming power. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. We spend so much energy trying to be the main character, the hero of our own story, right? But what if the best way to truly understand your own story is to first find your place inside a much, much larger one?